Okay. Sorry, everybody. Clearly this is the first time I've ever done this, and my computer did not like whatever I just did. So here we are, second half. I'm gonna jump back into this. So we were just talking about the Democratic Party basically putting their thumb on the scale of primary elections. So summary, I had said, basically that I didn't want to see them do what they had done to Steve Marchand, as I had heard and observed from people. And I definitely have. I mean, I even after I posted this, I was feeling a little like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have done that. But honestly, I ran into a bunch of people. Some of them are supporters of this very show. Like and they completely agreed with the point. And they had no gripe with it. It was, for me. It's kind of like I felt like I might have stepped over a line when I had originally sent out that tweet suggesting that the Democratic Party as an organization, so that internal group of people, that they had allowed for a condition in which things could happen that would create an undemocratic process, right? So like, I'm not even accusing them of being intentional in their actions necessarily, although I think at this point they probably need to hit a certain reality that comes with, like, it's not really cool to do this. It wasn't cool then. People are kind of upset about it. Whether you did it or not, it's worth clearing up with people. And so, the idea that I think I got cut off on was basically, when you've got major candidates that are already, they're receiving endorsements from previously elected officials that have held multiple positions in the state government. Anywhere from governor to senators, and it's just, look, like, these people are essentially career politicians. And when a career politician comes out and says, "Oh yeah, support this person," a lot of people tend to go, "Oh well, if the career politician says support this person, I should support that person because it means they know what they're talking about," right? Like, but we never stop to question, hey, is that person who's been in the process all that time, are they far from what it's like to be here and be me right now? Do they have a good connection to what people are really experiencing? And the case may be yes, they do, but it's really important to go back in and check on that. And so if these people are making decisions like this, it takes away the power of a voter who has to work 40, 60, 80 hours a week, and take care of kids. Like, explain to me how that person really has a copious amount of time to go do research on the intricacies of what's happening day to day with politics. I just don't see it happening, especially when most of the dissemination of that happens in a text form. And you've got to get linked to that. You've got to have someone put it in front of you in order for you to read it. And if you don't, then you're not going to know about it. And I guess that's kind of part of why I'm doing this, is hopefully this whole show will get people to check out more things, or at least get more stuff to you guys. So at any rate, Ray Buckley was really sort of upset about this insinuation. I posed a bunch of these questions that I had about the process to to him within the threads, and I got clapped back at by a bunch of people. It's just, it happens. They all kind of jumped on it really fast. It's okay, whatever. But I want to give props to Timothy Smith here, who actually responded to me in a reasonable capacity, and he says here that he agrees this can be problematic. Says there's not a lot Ray can do, which may or may not be the case, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that there's not a whole lot he can do about it. My question then becomes why? Why can't he do anything about this? If he's the chair of the Democratic Party, why is it not possible for him to say to currently elected officials or to say to the team at large, hey, we need to be really careful about staying out of this process, whether you're part of our organization or not. Anybody that's, anybody that could have any real power or influence in that situation, just wait until the general, man. Just wait. Like, it's not that hard. If you were to go and look at the national election, why don't you ask how many currently elected congressmen or senators are out here endorsing any of the 2020 candidates? Like, we're all still waiting for AOC to say who she's going to support. It's so to me, it's kind of like there's a handful of them, but frankly, this is to be expected. And I really I want to see them respond to that a little bit more. If they, I just think if we can talk about it, just is this happening? Because it seems like it is. If so, what can we do about it? Because it makes people that don't have a lot of power feel smaller. And look, I'm not even saying that, like, when it comes to the election, it may very well have been super fair. I don't know. I didn't count the votes. Okay? Again, I'm always going to err on the side of it probably wasn't. I will err on the side of not conspiracy theories because I'm not super into that. But if there's a chance for doubt, I'd like to at least discuss it and eliminate it as a possibility. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I had sort of said within this thread, after Timothy Smith basically says to me, hey, Ray's a really nice person. You should just go talk to him about it. See how it goes. Just ask him. It should be good. And at which point I say, how about it? Let's have a talk. And Ray Buckley asked me to email the office, which is exactly what I did. I did that immediately. And so I'll show you guys the email that I had written to them, just so that we can kind of like go over the thing. The main part of it is just I was stating to them, hey, I'm not acting in bad faith here. I really do want to get to the bottom of this. I just, it's something that I run into people and they talk to me about it. They're mad. They're upset that, they feel like there wasn't necessarily a totally equal balance during the primary. And, I just want to hear what you guys have to say about it. So I'll show you guys the questions that I was sending over to them, because I think that's probably going to help to contextualize what I was asking them. So let's see here. So here's the email that I had sent to them. I'm going to sort of scroll down to this part. Let's make this a little bit bigger here for you guys. So basically, what I was asking them was sort of, how do you guys do this internally? When you've got a nationally elected official doing things like supporting candidates ahead of time, do you recognize this as a problem? Do you push back on them at all during the process? do you even feel like it's a problem? I just, you know, I think like there were a bunch of you can go and check out the video that I did about Sununu's 3 vetoes that about campaign finance reform, things that would have helped when it comes to campaign finance reform, specifically the definition of an LLC and a political advocacy organization. So you can go into our videos and check that out if you haven't already. But basically, I wanted to ask them, like, hey, you guys had proposed these bills. Do you feel like you would be down to engage in the same kind of behavior that you were asking for in those bills, or are you willing to do it now as opposed to waiting for something like that to be legislation? Is that already your policy? If it is, cool, just say it is, and then that's the end of that story. So I really just kind of want to close this off. You know, if I'm gonna act like a jerk on the internet, you know, I have supporters here that are paying me, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to just be out here stirring the pot. This is really about, you know, improving our democracy and making it easier for people who do work that, you know, 40 to 80 hours a week with kids, so that they, you know, they're given the best opportunity to vote for the person that's going to help them the most. And you know, I don't know what else to say about it, guys. They haven't gotten back to me yet. It's been over a week now, and I haven't heard a thing. So, I don't know if they'll ever get back to me. I am planning on going to the Hillsborough Democrat barbecue tomorrow. I think that's what it's called. At any rate, I'm headed over there tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll get some good on location footage for you guys, so we can sort of follow up on that. I don't know what's gonna be in store there or what I'll get, so we'll find out. But I'll at least try and get you guys something from it. And with a little luck, maybe I'll run into Ray Buckley there, and he and I can have this conversation. Who knows? But you know, Ray, if you're watching, I just want to talk, man. I really just I just want to talk to you about it. I just want to know it's okay. Like, if I'm 100% wrong, I'm 100% wrong. But let's do this. Let's have this conversation. So, moving on from that. All right, this next bit is sort of something that has been a peeve of mine for a while. Something that just generally kind of bugs the snot out of me. Because I see it in a bunch of different instances. I'll see it in sort of like I'll see it in a national context, but I'll also see it locally, and that's just, it's killing me. It's absolutely killing me to see these really, I mean, what I would consider to be super inappropriate things, ways of reporting happening in the news. It's just, it's bumming me out, and so I want to talk about it with you guys. There's a whole history to it, and so yeah, we're gonna dive into that right now. I'm just trying to get some graphics up for you guys, so just give me a moment here. I'm gonna hop over to a splash screen while I get this stuff ready, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, guys? So see you in a moment.
Okay, we're taking on
Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that delay. I just wanted to get some articles and clips ready for you guys. So I'm gonna hop over and play this segment from WMUR really quick, because I think this is sort of exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to bias in news. So we're just gonna show this clip really quick, and we'll go from there. So.
Okay, we're taking on everybody. And we knew that.
As Bernie Sanders brings his fight for Medicare for all and tuition-free college back to the North Country, it's clear some of his diehard supporters are still nursing wounds from another battle, the 2016 primary.
I just always wonder why you held Hillary Clinton's hand up like that, after what she and the Democrats, I mean, it's one of the biggest stolen elections, I think, in our political history, and I'm wondering, what do you think about that?
I don't look at it that way. And it's funny that you asked that question, because then I get criticized by other people that you didn't do enough for Hillary Clinton. Well, I knocked my brains out because to try to get her elected, because I knew what a danger Trump would be to this country.
Seth Carey says in 2020, he's leaning toward Tulsi Gabbard over Sanders.
No, I think his time is up. I love Bernie and I love what he stands for, but I think that he captured lightning in a bottle in 2016, and now he's just sort of another candidate of 19 or something.
In Littleton, as the Vermont senator promised to take on powerful special interests, supporters asked him about his own party.
I want to know how you're going to get around the shenanigans of the DNC this time.
I'm looking forward, not backwards.
For Sanders, part of looking forward is the need to grow his nationwide base of support beyond his hardcore followers. But some already in that base are worried he isn't getting a fair shake.
There's a lot of people that are rooting against him. There's a lot of powerful businesses and corporations at play. And I feel like, number one, honestly, I feel like that is one of the things that makes me want to vote for him.
So there you go. That's that segment right there. Now, here's the thing. The day before this posted, okay, the day before, a poll was released from Gravis, and I'm gonna hop over and show you guys the results of that poll. Okay, it's very specifically about New Hampshire. All right, here it is. Sanders, 21%, leading, ahead of Biden. So my question here is, why, dear Lord, why am I seeing a negative Sanders segment about, is he electable in this climate? Is he a decent candidate compared to all the rest? Is he just another drop in the bucket? Well, I don't know. Adam, maybe it would have been good to put this stat in your segment, okay? So, I mean, anybody who's watched this channel already understands that I make these segments myself. Sarah and I will go shoot them together, and I'll slave away here editing these things late into the night most nights, and that's how I do it. So, I know firsthand just how easy it is to cut bias into a segment. It's really easy. And it's actually something that I consciously try really hard to not do because I don't feel like you guys deserve that. There's plenty of ways that I could cut content that I've been given, or that I've captured, that might better suit my own personal beliefs. I've done interviews where I looked like an idiot in some of those clips, and you can go back and watch them. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll post it. I am a firm believer in, don't support something unless you would support it when you're on the losing side. If it's like, oh, if I'm a rich person, I'm getting taxed more. Well, I'll still support it because it means I'm helping less well-to-do people survive. So, I mean, that's a, very, very loose example, but basically, yeah, just, kind of like put your money where your mouth is, I suppose, but more like put your ideology where your mouth is. I don't know. At any rate, this right here, okay, so we can talk about how this particular instance, you know, there's all these things wrong with whatever, and I don't want to get into it too much because, I mean, regardless of how I feel about Sanders, this right here, this isn't really about Sanders, okay? And I mean, it is to the extent that they have consistently done this to him, and the question about, well, what's the DNC gonna do? Like, that was a fair question in the sense of it's a problem, but it's also not really a fair question in the sense of, like, it doesn't need to be asked because it doesn't have anything to do with the current problems that Bernie would be facing in the primary. So the real issue here, okay, is the fact that WMUR segment, which is a local news station, okay, guys, this is like, these guys are supposedly unbiased. They're supposedly giving you the down low that's totally, it's the pure form. They're just the facts, right? Well, I mean, we can go back to the earlier segment where we were talking about Sununu's approval ratings and how the support splits there in terms of who pays attention to what news and what candidates they stand behind. But it doesn't matter. They should still remain fairly neutral by a traditional understanding of what local news is. But, I mean, that's not happening. And that follows a certain trend. So I've written a much longer piece that I'll post up for the patrons after this stream happens. I'll get it up for you guys because I am covering this now as opposed to doing a different segment later. We'll leave it here, and you guys can follow through there. But I've tried to put as many links on it as I possibly can to back this up, and there's a whole lot of information in that I'm not going to be able to get to here. I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to, it's not going to be my notes. So, and I don't want to read you guys a whole paper, but, so essentially the bigger problem comes down to, just like the decline of local news. Broadly speaking, it's something that's happening across the country. And there's a lot of reports about it that, it's something you can go ahead and just Google, and you will find a lot of results about, this news branch closed, that closed. And the ones that aren't closing are typically getting purchased or bought out by much bigger stations. And that sort of leads me to the example of the Deadspin video that came out, which showed a whole slew of news anchors from across the country all saying the same exact thing. They're all reading the same script. It's really Orwellian, and so I'll let me try and pull that up for you guys. Let's see here. So
Hi, I'm Fox NH.
So let's hop over to this. Okay, sorry about the delay here, guys. Just trying to pull this up. Get this All right, so here, let's try and
Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely dangerous to our democracy, okay? Like, wow. Yikes, guys. Okay, so Sinclair is the biggest broadcasting provider. Sinclair is the company that owns all of these stations that issued this must run. Now, currently Sinclair is kind of in a lot of trouble with an acquisition that they tried to do with Tribune. And that's also quite interesting, and you can get into that because that's it's an instance of Ajit Pai actually kind of being more regulatory than he normally would be, which is not at all usually. So at any rate, this is clearly messed up. And while we're lucky in New Hampshire that we don't have a Sinclair station, WMUR is a Hearst station. Okay, so what's Hearst, right? Hearst Communications. They've been around a really long time. And when you go into the history of Hearst Communications, right, you talk about the guy who founded Hearst Communications. And so the guy who started this, right, William Randolph Hearst. Okay, we're going to hop over to this. So, William Randolph Hearst was one of the originators, one of the two originators, along with Pulitzer, of the term yellow journalism. So, this guy, around the turn of the 1900s, he owned San Francisco-based print media and was sort of controlling that whole wing, and he had originally started out as a pretty progressive, labor-oriented guy, but slowly sort of slid more towards fascism and ended up supporting and publishing even content from Mussolini and Hitler. So actually, I can pull that up here. Okay, here we are. So, boom. Ran regular columns. Met Hitler. So, yeah, not a great origin story for the people that own our local news station. Now, I'm not saying that they believe that now. It probably would not be especially profitable for them to be Nazis and fascists this day and age. It's not really a good look for unbiased news source. So, I think they've probably scaled that back quite a bit. But it's good to understand where it came from. It's still considered a family business, so you'd be also wary of the way ideology was passed down from generation to generation. I am not currently aware of the present owners of Hearst, their CEO board. I don't know what their political affiliation is. Kind of doesn't matter, because I think money is their affiliation, and yeah. So, and that's the other thing to remember is that when you're talking about even a local news station, a local station like MUR, right? They're there to make money. They're not there to necessarily, yes, they are giving you the news, and yes, they are telling you what's going on. But man, don't ever forget, in this world, everything is about making money. As long as we have a capitalist society, everything is about making money. It's just how it is. So, you know, when you talk about journalism or video, anything like that, like news, like it's advertising revenue. You're talking about the money you're making off the commercials in between. You're talking about sponsors, all that. So this is something to consider in terms of where the direction in which the power behind our news is going to lean. You know, this stuff wouldn't necessarily be happening right now if we hadn't seen the repeal of the FCC fairness doctrine in 1987. And we'll go into this a little bit here. So I'm gonna hop over. This is the text for the FCC fairness doctrine on the Wikipedia right here. They're just sort of talking about what happened and how that all went down. The original point of this was to basically state to people, you know, you gotta share both sides of the argument. Okay, you have to give everybody everything. You can't have things be one-sided. When you're reporting on things, it's in order for people to be truly informed, you need to give them, as the FCC put it, honest, equitable, and balanced presentation. And in 87, that law was done away with. It happened under Reagan, but with a Democratic Congress and House. The chair of the FCC at the time was Dennis R. Patrick. So, fun little bit here. Dennis R. Patrick, after leaving in 1989, immediately began serving as the CEO of Time Warner in 1990 to 1995. So what did this guy do? He basically took away all of the controls that were placed on news reporting, and then went directly to the networks, the people that owned the stations, and said, okay, here's how you do it. Here's how you maximize profits. Let's run this game. So, they will make the argument that, you know, this was impeding the free speech of the press. I mean, I guess so. I don't think it necessarily impedes speech in the sense that, like, it's not telling you can't say something. It's saying, okay, you can say something, but you have to say the other side with it. That's not the same thing as telling you can't say something. Like, no one ever said, hey, you're trampling on my free speech by making me talk more, right? Like, by making me explain my position further. That, I don't know, that just kind of seems a little backwards to me. So it's, yeah, I don't see how that argument is going to hold up when you're talking about, like, oh, this is why we don't need the fairness doctrine. But regardless, this led to Rush Limbaugh taking over, you know, conservative talk radio, and, you know, that becoming ubiquitous across the country, and how it went on to just sink into so many other different kinds of media. And I think, you know, in a lot of ways you look at, you know, well, why does corporate media sort of maybe like lean more to the center or lean more conservatively speaking? I mean, I think the reason that's the case is because typically, you know, like why were these, you know, why do we see mostly Republicans making this move? I mean, Fox is a conservative news network. And I mean, I think you see this happen because capitalism just maps a whole lot better to conservative ideology than it does to liberal ideologies. Like, broadly speaking, it's a little bit more one-to-one and kind of follows the same basic concept of viewing things more in terms of zero-sum, and winners and losers, which it's a way to look at the world, you know, but ultimately that could kind of give you a better understanding of why the media that we consume, even CNN, and to an extent MSNBC, I mean, like, I don't necessarily have a whole lot of love for any of them. I think we get what we can from them, but it's, you know, anytime you turn on any of those networks, question everything that those guys are saying. Everybody, all the time. You know, if you don't, then you're gonna have problems, and you're gonna be using talking points that honestly they're not necessarily, you know, they're not wrong, but they're just not, they don't matter in terms of the conversation. And that also is a form of impeding your ability to make an informed decision, because it's really controlling the conversation that we all as media consumers have, because we can't talk about something that we're not exposed to, or we can't be aware of something that we're not aware of. So if the media is keeping that kind of information from it. To wrap this back around, I'm used to seeing this with CNN. I'm used to seeing it with MSNBC, especially with Fox. It's really upsetting to see it happen with a state channel. This is our local news, man. Shouldn't be like that. Okay? And I think the real answer is to just, you know, if you've got a gripe about it, if you feel annoyed, use social media to get at them. Call them. Write them a letter. I mean, I'm out here making a video about how I'm annoyed about it. You know, if anybody watches this and feels remotely irritated about it as well, you know, even if you see a reporter, ask them about it. You know, this is the right op-eds. Do anything that you can. You know, hold media accountable. That's, you know, I think as a, you know, I'm not a trained journalist, and I wouldn't consider myself to be any kind of professional journalist. I'm doing this more as I don't know, I just care, I guess. But, you know, I need the criticism too. You know, I definitely take a lot of criticism and suggestion from people, because it's part of talking about things and part of making things happen. And if I'm willing to do it, and I'm getting paid close to nothing doing this, you know, we just have the supporters. So, and to our patrons who are watching this right now, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting us and helping us do what we do and not have to have somebody tell me I can't say something. But go and hold these people accountable, man. That's it. That's what you got to do. You got to get at them, you know? So, right. So moving on to the next segment that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So we had night market past week, and this week there was the community conversation in Peterborough about arts in the town. So, by the way, this is getting super, super local. So if you're from anywhere other than Peterborough, you probably don't want to watch this. Peterborough, New Hampshire, that is. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's relevant to you, because this is about how arts interact with your community, any community. So this could map to somewhere else. I don't know. But you've got a couple of these events in pairing with, we have the Sharon Arts Center, which was part of the New Hampshire Institute of the Arts, recently was sold off, so now we don't have a gallery or art school in our town anymore. And that sort of sparked a conversation in town about, you know, what's the direction of arts, what's going to happen moving forward. For anybody that doesn't know, we have one of the oldest artist colonies in the country, the McDowell Colony. It's very unique. It's It's I think the only one that gives you a full ride. Really, really prestigious. At any rate, so they had a community conversation this past week, which is hosted by the local paper, Monadnock Ledger Transcript. Hope you guys can see my cat back there. He's a real big boy. So basically, this was the headline for the article about, and they've put me as the guy. I don't know why I was chosen for the photo. I wish they hadn't. But I did have a lot of people come up to me and say they appreciated what I said. I don't know. I felt like I was probably not being especially articulate at the time, and flubbed it. So hopefully I can correct what I was saying a little bit here today, and get to more of what I was actually trying to talk about. Because if you go in and read this article right now, unfortunately right now I'm locked behind a paywall, so I can't. If I click on this, it's just going to holler at me. But basically in that article, I was attributed as saying that that we need a Workshare program, and that would be the solution to our okay. That's not true. I mean, while I do believe that we need to be sharing our skills amongst each other, I think that's a type of subsidy. I think that's important, but really what I'm trying to get at is, when I was talking about it, is that, look, like, artists don't have a lot of money, and there's also a lot of other people that don't have money. Just generally speaking, there's a lot of people that really are super broke. But those people may still really want to engage with or participate in or help out the arts community. So what do? If you don't have the money, donate what you can, dude. Absolutely. Like, ugh. So I think if you're trying to engage, give what you have. If you have a skill, if you have a space, if you have materials that you're willing to part with or donate or volunteer with, I mean, look, do it, because every little bit helps. And the most important way to do that is to go and engage with other artists. Now, not to give plugs, but I mean, that's what the Arts Collective is for. So if you're in the Peterborough area and you're trying to get more connected with other people who are able to, share their skills, do a skill share, do what was specifically talked about at this event. Great. That is super important. Go to those Arts Collective meetings, meet other people. I go to them. I think it's important. But that's only going to go so far. And realistically, when you're talking about what does it take to solve a problem, or what does it take to make arts thrive in the town, if that's what you want, right, it comes down to two things. Straight up. Infrastructure and subsidy. That's it. We can talk about, we should build this facility, or we should, have this housing, or we should, every single thing that comes up, every proposal that I've heard, I only have one question after, which is, who's going to pay for it? Okay? Because it's not the artists. There was a stat shared at the very beginning of the meeting, talking about how an artist's average salary is somewhere in the $25,000-$26,000 range, but the average income in the town is $72,000. I mean, that is a huge disparity. And the idea of, look, like, when an artist sinks their time and effort into something, that's their investment. So when you're expecting an artist to spend a bunch of money to make something happen on top, I mean, that's unreasonable. And, you know, I think a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, you need to patronize the arts, you need to support the arts. But, I mean, I've heard that come from wealthy people who absolutely could turn around and go buy a couple pieces, or could hire a local graphic designer to do a bunch of work, or, you know, hire a local painter to come do a mural. You know, like, this kind of stuff can happen, and those people can get paid adequately for their work. And that's a solution, okay? If you really care about having housing, right, or you want to develop some of the unused properties and spaces that we have in town, right, do it. Okay, spend your money on it. That's it. Spend your money on it. I'm sorry. I'm sure people don't want to hear that in terms of, you know, at the community conversation, we don't want to be negative. And I feel that to a certain extent. But just to go back to what I said at the very beginning of the program, I mean, like, if you're not gonna be willing to talk about the tough stuff, and you're not going to be willing to rip a Band-Aid off, and you'll either let it sit there and fester, or you're only going to peel it as slowly as you possibly can, so it's super painful and takes a really long time. I mean, I don't know. You have to go in and you have to do this stuff, otherwise we're not going to see any real change. So the first thing is sort of subsidy. You gotta have artists subsidizing other artists in the sense of supporting each other with skills and abilities. You know, if someone has a basement that someone needs to play a show in, or someone's got some amps, or, you know, someone has wall space at their restaurant, that's a good form of subsidy, right? That doesn't necessarily have an inherent dollar cost. It's just a trade-off. You know, if you got and there absolutely should be boards posted up where people can, you know, make requests like this. The last thing on subsidy is coming down to the it's not just enough to pay artists for the work they do. You need to respect the value of it. I cannot count the amount of times that I have been asked, or people that I know have been asked to, hey, can you manage this social media? Can you do this logo for me? You know, can you make this, make that for me really fast? I just need it super quick. Like, it's no big deal. Oh, you want me to pay you? Look, I personally am tens of thousands of dollars in the hole because of my creative knowledge. Okay, that's the school that I went to. I still owe a lot of money for going to art school. Okay, and I have had people scoff at me when I tell them what my hourly rate is, and that's just like, that is so unbelievably disrespectful. On the flip side of it, there are absolutely people in the community that I have worked for that have paid me really well. And, you know, when I said, this is what I need to make, they said, okay, we believe in supporting artists. So I'm not saying that there aren't people in the town that are trying to do this, but there are absolutely people that expect this kind of stuff to just happen. And if you're ever going to expect any artist to do anything creative for free, just don't open your mouth. I'm sorry to be stark about that, but that's it. Don't do it. Pay artists, pay them adequately, right? So the next step is absolutely the infrastructure, right? Once you have that subsidy coming in, once you've got people paying the artists, so the artists are reinvesting their money into the local economy, when you've got artists, you know, saving resources and trading them amongst each other, when you've got people who care about the arts investing in it, because let's be real about it, I mean, like, arts being a part of your community doesn't just increase the revenue in the arts area, it's going to increase it in other places too, right? So if you've got a higher amount of people coming through town for shows or gallery openings or whatever, well, that's more people in town that could be going to a restaurant, so that's more people buying food, you know, that's more people looking around at the shop, so that's more commerce, so that's potentially more housing opportunities. If people open more Airbnbs, that's more people getting a little bit of a break on their property taxes, which are way too high. So, you know, it's like there are so many things beyond just like artists making more money that this benefits the town for. And there's also something to be said for, you know, look, anecdotally speaking, when I think about, you know, I graduated from high school here in town, and when I think about the amount of creative people that I attended school with, graduated ahead of me, behind me, whatever, right? I can't count the amount of really successful people in creative fields, right? I cannot say the same for professional athletes, right? How many professional athletes has Peterborough generated? You know, how many football stars have we created? I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I know that we've created famous actors. Sam Huntington. I mean, you've got Caitlin Carter hooking up with Miley Cyrus, and you've got, you know, I know Brian Fotter, who graduated from Conval, is now the head of he's working for the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Look, I could list people that are doing really great things that graduated from this town in creative fields, okay? Or just in entertainment. Maybe they're not even doing something awesome. Maybe they're just out there entertaining folks. Like, who cares, man? But this isn't sports, right? Like, this is so... When I think about, like, where we're investing our money, right, in terms of what's coming out of the town, maybe we should be teaching people more about the creative trades, because that seems to be what we put out into the world. There's a lot of people working in creative fields that came from Peterborough. I could just keep listing them. Shoot, I mean, like, people in my Zach Zalman Green, Sam McIntyre, that Katie Piselli. Look, the list just goes on, man. There are so many people that have come through and done amazing things in this area and then left and went on to do something even better. And for us to, you know, be in doubt about what our town is or how it interacts with the world around us, I mean, I think it's just worth it's worth considering what we put out there. You know, even at the arts meeting, you know, we had people come in and say, I moved to this town because of the creative opportunities. I moved to this town because it was this arts location. And I think, you know, it's a little corny when you see a headline like turning, you know, the region into an arts mecca. Like, look, it's not about a label like that, okay? Who cares about a mecca? Like, why not just be hospitable? You know, saying we want to have more studio space, we want to have more affordable housing that artists can live in. I don't think that's making a mecca. I think that's just trying to take the next step in improving your community. You know? Yeah, I don't know what to say about that beyond that point. It's just, you know, I think that part speaks for itself, but I think people in town should definitely, and not just in our town, but in every town, you know, if your community cares about creativity and cares about, you know, that type of outlet for youth, for young adults, for any age range really. Like I don't care. Think about the historical value of what you got, what your community has put into the world. Think about what it is exactly that you need in order to become what you want to become. Do you need laws to be more flexible so that you can create more spaces that that will meet what you've got? It's is it just a matter of we got to build more? Is it a matter of there's not enough artists living in the area? I don't know. It could be anything depending on where you are in the country or in the world. But this is a part of the community that I'm from, and I think it's something that I've seen us grapple with it extensively over the years in positive ways, in negative ways. Generally speaking, though, it's always on the uptick. I think we're always getting closer and closer to some sort of ideal situation. It's slow work for sure. I think Night Market was a really interesting example of that. It was a really great event, but at the same time, there were a lot of challenges for a lot of businesses in the area. If you read the article on it, there's the theater had trouble for sure. So there's kinks to be worked out, and everybody needs to be able to be on board with it. But it did show that a town that usually goes to bed at like 7:30, goes to bed, could stay up until 11 o'clock and have people like bouncing around downtown. That's a cool move. So it's nice that it can happen. It's the right step in the right direction. But it's important to remember, we gotta talk about the parts that were challenging. We got to address it. We got to move forward, and we got to consider who we are and what our community's identity is. So I think I'm going to stop here on this topic. I think I've probably beaten this horse to death, and there's plenty of other people that can voice their opinion on it a little better than I can. But suffice to say, every problem is interconnected, especially in a community where arts have played such a key role. If you want to talk about keeping the arts alive in this town, you need to be willing to address the other more serious problems that the town faces, like housing shortages and high property tax values. So there's that. So here's the last little leg of this. I had seen a lot of people in like town groups posting about stray cats, outdoor cats roaming around. I lost my cat. I saw this cat, right? And I think I have heard a lot of debate over the years about indoor versus outdoor cats, and I just like, okay guys, here's what we're gonna do. I have here the the exact page, the recommendations from the American Humane Society, and we're just gonna do it. We're gonna talk about it because I'm just gonna read over it with you guys, and yeah, I think that's probably the most key thing. I don't really know if we need to look at anybody else's opinion. I think the American Humane Society is probably going to be the leading expert on this. So right, here we go. Indoor versus outdoor cats. Basically, talk about the health concerns that come with sending your cat outside. Well, they're a lot more prone to getting diseases. Here's your disease set, or parasites. Naturally, if you're exposed to the outside, your cat could drink nasty water or eat something it's not supposed to. So, a lot more opportunity for exposure, just as there would be for any human. Basically, we're gonna say, you know, these. If you decide to let your cat outside, so this is where they're going with that. You know, if you're gonna let your cat outside on a leash in a cage, confined space, right? You know, make a catio, man. But here's the thing, right? If you're gonna let your cat outdoors, you have to expect that the following could happen. Your cat could get hit by a car. Some really sick, twisted jerk could kill your cat, and I think there was a story about that recently. So definitely don't write that one off. You know, any loose animal, wild animal, any outdoor cat that I ever had when I was growing up typically got, one day they just never came home, and that was usually because they probably got killed by a coyote or something. So that's, you know, worth being concerned about. You know, any random toxic stuff that can happen. I mean, the tree thing is definitely an interesting problem that they bring up here. When you let your cat outside and let them hang around outside, there is a pretty serious impact on the local bird and small animal population, and that's a really, I would honestly say this is probably one of the most important parts of why you shouldn't let your cat outside. I grew up letting my cats outside. The cats I have now I keep indoors, and the reason I keep my cats indoors is specifically because I read this. I was exposed to this information, and I changed my tune about it. Because I don't know, I personally feel like if I need to care for my animals, I need to follow these guidelines. So if you think about it, I mean, cats are going to really, really take a chunk out of any of the local squirrel populations or bird populations, and there's things to consider with that, right? So like if you're going to talk about small rodents in a rural area, well, the reason we have most of our trees is because squirrels, you know, will store nuts they'll get nuts over the course of the year, and they'll store them in random stash spots, but they don't remember them all the time. Sometimes they forget, and usually that planted nut turns into a tree. So we have squirrels and, you know, chipmunks and all those little critters to thank for planting all of our forests. So, you know, yeah, it's a slower impact, but I don't know. If you're somebody who is conscious about the environment, then maybe engage in protecting the environment from your cat. I don't know. That's my take. I'm sure I'm gonna have people in the comments that are really mad at me about how it's you know, against their nature or whatever. And I mean, look, I gotta tell you, like, my cats are indoor cats. They want to go outside sometimes, but they are happy to just kind of wander around in a small little area. They don't necessarily need to go off and hunt real animals. You can get toys, and that works. Believe it or not, people will tell you that it's not the same. Trust me, it is. It is the same enough for them that it will satisfy the need they have to attack or kill or play or what have you. So I just, you know, this is it. I'm not going to do a whole lot more than that. I'll put the link down at the bottom. Cool. Please be conscious of what letting your cat outdoors does to the environment around it and the risks it poses to your cat. So there we go. That's that. And I have not tuned in here to the chat in a minute, so I'm gonna take a look at this. We've got looks like, generally speaking, been fairly quiet in the chat, which is fine. I expected that as much. It's it is a Saturday, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Anybody that showed up and watched, awesome. And if you're watching this after the fact, awesome, thanks. And hopefully we'll get to do this again for you guys sometime soon. So, yeah. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and catch you soon, folks.